Starfleet hasn't heard from Deep Space Station K-13 in a while. It's in a tactically sensitive part of the quadrant, and the brass is getting concerned. Get out there, find out what you can, and render assistance if needed. And hey, be careful, okay? This could go sideways fast.
And so Admiral Isaac Garrett gives us our next assignment. For this we receive some more upgrades to the ship as well as some dilithium ore ready to be refined and used at our discretion. Approaching the Geneva system, we see Deep Space Station K-13 in all its glory silhouetted against the backdrop of the planet it's orbiting. A metaphorical oasis in the deep recesses of frontier space. Warping into the system, Scaverin quickly notes that there is a complete and total absence of any comm traffic. This is unusual. A station such as this would usually be host to a myriad of signals coming and going from starships as they attempt to dock and circumnavigate each other. But he does also note there are no enemy signatures nearby. We should probably move closer to investigate. In the distance we can see two vessels, Federation IFFs, so potentially they could inform us as to what's been going on here. As we close to 10 kilometers, we notice that they're pioneer vessels, much like us. One unnamed and one is the Myrmidon, but something's wrong. The minute we enter weapons range, they charge phasers and raise shields. Well, I don't want to be the one that fires first on a fellow Federation vessel, so we'll hold fire for now and approach. So much for that tactic. The crackle of the deflector shields absorbing the impact of torpedoes, as well as the shrill tones of Federation phaser fire, acts as the background music to this deadly dance. Scoring a critical hit, the unnamed Pioneer-class vessel is rendered inert as we puncture something critical and it starts venting dried plasma into space. At least we didn't destroy it. Seconds later, the USS Myrmidon suffers the same fate. What is going on here? Why are the Federation vessels attacking us? Why is the station absolutely quiet? We need answers.
Stay away! They're taking control! Don't come near us! They'll take you too! This station came from the station!
Who? What? Why? Where? Our queries are met with static. Starfleet orders us to investigate further, and I thought they probably would. Doherty mentioned something about it coming from the station. Perhaps we should go have a look. I don't want to risk whatever happened to the vessels happening to us, but how else are we going to learn what happened here? We give the station a cursory scan beforehand. After all, it wouldn't pay to beam in blind. Thorough sensor sweep reveals there are no signs of active combat on the station, and there are no unexpected or hostile readings of life signs on the station either. It's just eerily quiet. There are life signs over there, indicating that there are at least survivors, and the systems of the ship, life support and all the critical things, seem to be functioning. We assemble a landing team and beam over. First thing we notice is that the transporter chief is absent. This station should be manned at all times. Something's clearly wrong. Stepping out into the hallway, we notice there are scorch marks all over the bulkheads. Tarsi notes they correlate with standard Federation sidearm fire. Perhaps whatever affected the ships out there happened in here first. That seems likely. And the corridors themselves are so dimly lit. What's happening to the lighting in here? We know environmental systems and all the subsystems of the station are working fine. So this was done on purpose. We enter sickbay to discover a survivor, hidden behind the pane of glass in the operating room.
Stop where you are and turn about slowly. I need to determine if you are infected. Neural Parasites, a life form last encountered by the crew of the Enterprise at Deneva Colony. Those possessed by the creatures tend to engage in hostilities with the uninfected, the better to render them fit for infestation.
Well, we're friendly, Ensign.
Temet, and while you have not engaged in hostilities thus far, I have seen infected employ false passivity in order to lure unwary prey. A tricorder scan of your adrenaline levels should verify your status.
Are we sure that's a good idea? I'm pretty tense right about now.
Scans show a slightly elevated level of adrenaline, though nowhere near that of an infected life form. Thank you for your patience. One can never be too cautious where these parasites are concerned.
We can dig for more information here.
They are a life form that propagates by infiltrating the nervous system of a host creature. Through this neural link, they can compel their host to obey their bidding. They can also inflict extreme pain upon the host at will, and do so to discourage attempts at resistance. While effective, this punishment can lead to permanent neurological damage or death. At this time, most of the station personnel have become infected. While there is a possibility of uninfected survivors, I must warn that it is remote. According to Starfleet data files, the parasites can be safely destroyed by exposure to high-intensity ultraviolet light. My attempts at reconfiguring the station's lighting thus far have been unsuccessful. I am a physician, not a habitat engineer.
They're like space vampires.
As a precaution, I have developed a serum that can render a person toxic to the creatures. However, medical supplies here are limited. I have enough serum to inoculate your landing party and one other person.
She joins us outside of the med lab, and with that we are inoculated. It seems prudent to use the ship's communications to see if there are any other unaffected survivors out there. Speaking into the comm unit, this is Lieutenant Hale of the USS Armiger. Is there anyone on the station able to respond?
Now there's a voice I wasn't expecting. I take it you heard my distress call then. Well, in case you haven't noticed, the station's been overrun by neural parasites. The wee devils are back with a vengeance.
Scotty, what are you doing here? We're safe up in sickbay. Can you join us?
I'm afraid not. I'm in the auxiliary control room down on the engineering deck. The place is filthy with parasites, so you'll understand if I don't go out for a wee jaunt.
I have secured a small amount of security gear. It may give you another edge against the parasites.
We gear up with the newfound energy-dampening armour, as well as some new sidearms. Let's take a quick look at where she was holed up, shall we? Well, I see absolutely no signs of food in here, so it's good job we came along when we did. Who knows how much longer she would have lasted. Cautiously searching the station, we begin with the lounge, and we see crewmen madly scratching at the walls and running at us enraged.
We may be able to gain useful knowledge by scanning one of the infected.
Approaching one of the dazed crewmen, we can see the parasite on his back like a pancake. Giving it a cursory scan, we hope to learn more.
The creatures continue to be resistant to tricorder scans, sir. It may be fascinating. I'm detecting an unusually high level of tachyons nearby. Based on these readings, it is possible that a temporal event has occurred on the station within the last 4.2 hours.
Resistant to scans? That's why we didn't detect them from our approach to the station. And as for this tachyon reading, suggesting potential time travel, things might not be as simple as they appear. They already appear to be pretty complex. We continue to fight our way through the flickering, dimly lit corridors, watching every corner for potential assailants, stunning those who we encounter. After all, it's not their fault for the way they're acting. They're being controlled by these parasitic pancakes on their backs.
The auxiliary control station is down the hall to our right. I'm reading a single human life form within the room. The biosigns match those of Commander Scott in the Starfleet medical database. Someone must have raised this security field to cut off the auxiliary engineering section from the rest of this deck.
I tried blasting it because why not? It never works in the films, but I thought I'd try. Ah, Montgomery Scott.
Hi there. It's good to see a friendly face. There you are. I was beginning to get a bit concerned. Thought you might have been taken by those little beasties. I'll just lock the door so none of them can get in while we discuss our next course of action. Now that you're here, we've some work to do. The way I see it, we need to get to main engineering and turn on the station's ultraviolet lighting. That'll sort the nasty buggers out properly.
This correlates with what Temet says.
While I cannot attest to the ability of UV light to sort Denivan parasites, it will initiate a complete molecular breakdown within all parasites exposed to it.
More or less.
Aye, she's a Vulcan, all right. I was trying to override the lighting controls from here. It looks like someone sabotaged several duotronic relays. We have to repair them if we're going to have any chance of saving the station. Before we go, grab yourself a kit from the crate there. It might come in handy. We better get a move on. The parasites aren't ones to loiter about.
So we need to locate the smashed duotronic relays and guide Commander Scott to them so that he can repair them. On the way out, we grab the equipment he mentioned, and Scotty finds one of the relays immediately outside the room. At least now we know what we're looking for, these sparking panels.
Alright, there are several ways through the engineering section here. Keep in mind that the parasites tend to stay in dark corners. If you want to avoid them, do your best to stay in the lit areas.
These parasites were encountered by the crew of the Enterprise before, in the original series episode Operation Annihilate. A similar situation had occurred on the colony planet of Denevia, where the local inhabitants had descended into a similar-like state of fury. And just like then, these parasites cling to the walls, awaiting for unsuspecting victims to walk by, where they can then drop off and attach themselves to the back.
This one just needs new fuses.
Straying too close to a darkened area, I get ambushed by one of them. It latches itself onto me, and I think I'm done for? No? Oh, thank God Temet's inoculation has made me somewhat incompatible to them, so the away team and Commander Scott are protected. Still, it doesn't look like it was a very pleasant experience, one I am not keen to repeat. Every now and then we hear the screams of a not-so-fortunate victim.
Now this may be a bit tricky.
The wailing signifies another advance of the possessed crewmen, but this time some of them are armed. We do our best to neutralise as many as we can with fisticuffs and stun settings. But one of the blighters lands on Scott. Thank God he's been inoculated too. He deals with it in an appropriate fashion, and Scaverin is overjoyed that a fellow engineer survived. It appears, but before they latch onto a host, destroying them is far more easy, and when they do, they disperse into a cloud of smoke, almost dissolving and fizzling away. We need to get the lights restored quickly. They are everywhere, and there is a true possibility that the infestation may spread.
Our odds of success are greatest if we remain in well-lit areas.
I'm being careful, Temet. And I'm being impatient, but okay. Eventually all the relays are restored, and we make our way to engineering. But I get ambushed on the way in, and oh my word, they are everywhere in here. I don't want to get too close to that wall.
It looks like someone has overridden the command codes. You best get to the command center and see what you can do from there. I'll stay here, barricade the door, and keep trying to get those UV lights going.
Someone has deliberately locked out access to the UV lights. This, coupled with the sabotage to the duotronic relays, suggests that there is a design at play here. Could it have been the crew deliberately foiling attempts to remove the parasites? I wouldn't have thought so. They seem to be bound by rage and fury, not even thinking about what they're doing strategically.
Look, who are those soldiers? They're definitely not Starfleet.
Before we can investigate, we have to take care of the station's commander. He's armed himself with a phaser rifle, and he seems a lot tougher than all the others. Eventually the stun overwhelms him and he passes out, but before we access the controls, let's have a look at these interlopers. Red and grey uniforms, they look almost Riemann, but I don't recognise them.
Parasites! They're dying! All of them!
Salvage what you can and send a squad to kill the Federation vermin!
With that, the intruders beam in and open fire upon us. They go down pretty easily, and we don't reserve stun settings for these, it seems, vaporizing several of their members before they get a chance. I move over to have a closer investigation of them. Their armour doesn't seem to be specific to this time, and then Hunter interrupts me.
We need to talk.
Not a good time, I'm busy being a detective.
Actually, the name's Daniels. This may be a little difficult to absorb, but recent events may make it more plausible. I'm actually from the future. I can't tell you how far, just that it's a future worth protecting. That's why I'm here now. The aliens we're fighting are called the Nakul, and they're waging a temporal Cold War with us. They're trying to change the timeline here in order to disrupt the future. Understand that I follow a temporal version of the Prime Directive. There's only so much I can reveal to you. Trust that we're doing the right thing here. Time's a factor. We need to stop the Nakul from obtaining the Neural Parasites. The Nakul ship that brought these invaders is now fighting the USS Ptolemy. Someone must have sent a distress call. Unfortunately, Ptolemy is no match for the Nakul. Neither is your ship, at least not alone. We should eliminate the parasites on the ships you fought earlier. Those crews will help you once their minds are their own again. It's risky, but it's our best shot here.
Okay, that is a lot to digest. The invaders were called the Nakul, they're from the future, and it's part of this temporal Cold War that's been going on. This man here, Hunter, is actually Daniels, an agent of the Federation from the future. But the immediate threat is that the Nakul have phoned a distress signal that has lured in the USS Ptolemy.
I'm transferring command codes to you now. Use them to remotely access the computer on those disabled ships and emit an ultraviolet flash inside.
This should free the crews.
This is Captain Seralt of the Ptolemy. We have engaged the enemy ship, but we are outmatched. Please restore those ships and join the fight quickly.
We do as Captain Seralt suggests, using the command codes to override the computers of each vessel and ramp up the lighting inside to ultraviolet levels, freeing the crews.
This is Captain Doherty of the USS Armiger. What happened? What's going on?
Captain, your crew was taken over by Neural Parasites. We've defeated them. Now we need your help fighting this alien ship.
Parasites? What? Okay, sorry. We're right behind you, Captain. Lead the way.
Well, he took that rather well.
Something's wrong. We're not doing any damage.
Ptolemy has been destroyed. They have some kind of temporal shielding.
Temporal shielding? Never heard of it. But maybe a modulated iron burst could disrupt it.
It seems to work. The temporal shielding that was protecting it by removing it from the timeline fails, and so begins a battle of 3 against 1. The odds are actually quite fair. This vessel, of course, is from the future, possessing a myriad of technologies we've not even dreamt of, but there are 3 Pioneer-class cruisers to repel the alien incursion. Playing chicken with the ship, I have to move out of the way at the last second to avoid a collision, though the risky head-on manoeuvre did enable me to pierce the front and side shields. With shield power failing, we concentrate fire on the aft.
Fine work, Captain. You sent those devils back to wherever they came from. We do have a wee problem, however. The burst I sent, when combined with the power source, created a feedback pulse. The feedback is creating some kind of spatial anomaly, which is beginning to pull the station in. We need to evacuate immediately.
This temporal rift is threatening the entire station. We definitely need to get the survivors off. They've endured enough today. Let's not end it by sending them to God knows where and when.
Scott here. The portal's collapsing. We're in for a right bumpy ride. Everyone's aboard. Get us clear before that portal blows. There she goes. I don't think anyone's ever seen a station do that.
You mean see an orbital station depart from its orbit and phase out of existence through a rift in space-time? No, you're right, Scotty, I don't think anyone's ever seen that before. Scavrin reports the news that the evacuation was only mostly successful.
Perhaps not. After all, it was a temporal vortex. They may well survive. In another time.
Let's hope so.
Well then, it's been quite a day, hasn't it? Neural Parasites. Time-traveling raiders. Why, things will seem almost normal once I'm back on the Enterprise. Speaking of, I'm sure the ships here can give me a lift back to her now that they're parasite-free. If Starfleet Command gives you any grief on this, remind them that lives are more valuable than equipment. And you saved a lot of lives today.
Thanks, Scotty. Give my regards to Kirk and the crew.
I apologize for springing all of this on you at the last minute, and I'll explain more as soon as I can. For now, I can tell you that history is unfolding as it should, and that was not the end of K-13. You're building a fine tradition of making the right decisions in crisis situations. In the meantime, don't talk to anyone about the Nakul or their time travel. We can't risk any further corruption of the timeline.
That makes sense. We'll talk soon, Daniels, and I'm going to need more answers. Well, with that all said and done, we saved 2 vessels from the Neural Parasites, repelled a temporal invasion, but we lost K-13 as well as several of its crew who didn't make it out in time.
Let me get this straight. K-13, an entire space station, just disappeared into some type of spatial anomaly? And I thought some of Kirk's after-action reports were a little out there. Starfleet Command won't be pleased with the loss of K-13, or the people that were still on board, but they'll be happy to hear about the lives you did save. Good work out there. Keep it up.
Not a perfect outcome by any means, and we can't even put the temporal displacement in the reports. As far as Starfleet is concerned, K-13 is gone. But Temet becomes a permanent addition to our crew. Reflecting on the day's events, it becomes clear that we are part of a much bigger picture than first thought. A war that spans across time and space, fought in subterfuge, factions vying for control over time periods to alter the flow of events, to pervert the course of history. And now we're tangled up in this complex web too. Who knows what'll happen next time? Thank you for watching. This is part of an ongoing series where I'll go through all of the Agents of Yesterday missions of Star Trek Online. So, I hope to see you for the next part where we'll confront Daniels and maybe get some answers as to what's going on. Until then, thanks again. I've been Rick, and I'll see you next time with the crew of the USS Armiger. Goodbye. Scoring a critical hit, the Pioneer-class vessel